Like
Of course, you
she,
wish she looked like her.
yeah. Oh my,
Why?
because she right now is like the perfect standard of what beauty in Hollywood
But
should look
why do
like.
you? Oh my gosh, this is the whole point of this episode. Why do you
Yeah,
want to change who you are to look like someone else? She already exists. You are
that's
who you
true.
are.
But I think my point there is like you can't change who you are. And so they like the easier thing to do rather than go through all these changes and like essentially change who you are except your DNA. It's really just to change the way you see yourself, as you say all the time. And just, it's not an easy process to learn to love yourself, but it makes loving the world a lot easier. It makes finding love a lot easier. It makes finding friends easier.
Welcome to the Daughter Dearest Podcast with dynamic mother-daughter duo Simone and Olivia Knego, where they discuss the secrets of transformation and how to build bold confidence and unwavering resilience. From intimate conversations with inspiring guests to sharing their personal journeys of triumph and challenge, Simone and Olivia create a supportive space where every woman is encouraged to rise above her fears and love the woman in the mirror. Tune into the Daughter Dearest podcast and join this special journey of connection and growth.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Daughter Dearest Podcast. I'm Simone Knego,
And I'm Olivia Knego.
and we are here today to talk about unrealistic beauty standards, body image, all of the things. I think it's something that pretty much every woman struggles with. It's not based on how thin you are or how beautiful you think you are. It's everyone looks in the mirror and sees something that they don't like because society tells us that this is how you should be. And we want to have an open conversation about that. So, I mean, you woke up this morning, you looked in the mirror, and what did you say to yourself?
I look too fat.
Yeah. I woke up this morning, I looked in the mirror. Well, actually, I took a shower, and you can see I am balding, right? I have very thin hair on my head. And that's the first thing I see every time I look in the mirror.
Which is crazy, by the way. I feel like most people don't know that like more women bald than men. We
Well,
just have to cover it up.
yeah, I would say that I have noticed that more women than I thought. There's so many good products out there now, but more women than I ever thought did this. They wear wigs or they wear partial wigs, and
Yeah.
they're so good now you can't tell,
Oh my God, you
right?
literally cannot tell. And it's kind of crazy that we put this pressure, especially on balding, because it's like it's something men can kind of get away with. And don't get me wrong, especially with younger men, like that's a beauty standard, like you're balding in your 20s is definitely something to be, or that they don't need to be insecure about, but men do get insecure about. But it's I feel like it's a harsher sentence for older women, at least.
Oh, for sure. I think for women in general, I mean, think about the weight, right? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
men can have a beer belly. It's called a beer belly. Like there's a name for it. It's like endearing. But
Yeah.
if women gain weight, they're fat.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that even translates over into the food we eat. Like now that I just my background is different today, this will be my full-time background from now on because I'm in the podcasting studio at my apartment and I live with my boyfriend now and just seeing the food differences there, it's just like kind of freaks me out because like if I ate the way he did, I would face so much criticism as a woman.
Yeah, there definitely is a different even talk about food for a second. I mean, I remember going out to breakfast. We're at a meeting and you know, we like all the men had like piles of eggs and bacon and bread on their plates, and the women had like maybe a little bit of cottage cheese and some fruit.
Yeah,
And, I've rarely seen now I eat what I want to eat. I mean,
me too.
but, but I think if I came to the table with a plate like that, I guarantee the men would have been like, holy, like, what
Yeah,
are you doing?
absolutely. And it makes me think of like my own business or coffee chats or when you have like business lunches, I always get a salad because it's like the respectable thing for a woman to eat.
Which is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
I
so
mean, don't get me wrong.
ridiculous.
Like I'm making salad. I have my meal prep. I'm making salad for dinner tomorrow night because I want it. But like all throughout last summer when I was like professionally working, it was salad for lunch every single day, even when I didn't want it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I definitely noticed that with my friends as well. And actually, I read an article, I want to say last year, when I was really focused on labels and
Mm-hmm.
how we label each other. But one of the articles I read, and I thought this was really interesting, that when women go out to eat, if the first woman orders a salad, every other person at the table is going to order a salad because,
I think that's really true because I will go out with my girlfriends and I'll ask them what they're getting.
yeah,
Or it's like, it kind of comes down to that Shirley Temple mindset. Have you heard about that? Like, with one person orders a Shirley Temple at the table, everybody else is going to order a Shirley Temple.
it's
It's
so
like
interesting.
you're setting the precedent for it. And obviously, the Shirley Temple is a good example. The salad is like, oh, but you don't want to be the odd man out.
Yeah, but if the first person that orders pasta, people will order random things across the table. Like
Yeah,
so
whatever
then
they want to
they
eat.
feel like they've been given permission, which again is so ridiculous. I think like
Yeah.
we need to give ourselves permission to do what we want to do, eat what we want, wear what we want, look how we want. I was on a podcast yesterday, and the guy, really great guy, Dave Nordell, and we were talking about women, and he was talking about he was at an event once and he was sitting with a group of women, and they were all dressed to the nines, right? They all had all their makeup on and fancy clothes, and he asked the question, why do you guys dress so fancy for something like this? Are you dressing so that men notice you? And they said no, we're dressing for the other women, which I think was, I heard that and I was like, okay, ladies, I don't dress up that often. When I do, I dress up for myself, right?
Yeah.
It's not that I want to be part of this comparison game or, keeping up with the Joneses or anything like that. I don't want that at all. If I want to wear jeans and a t-shirt and have my hair up in a ponytail, that's how I'm going to go. But if I'm going out and I feel like, you know what, I want to dress it up, I'll dress it up. But not because I need to get someone's attention and not because I'm worried about what the other women in the room think. And I think we need to remind ourselves of that, because when he said that, I was like, that's pretty crazy. And he said, yeah, I thought it was really crazy. And I said, but you know what? It's true. It's true. You see it every single time.
Yeah. I mean,
So
yeah, I think that's kind of ridiculous. And in some ways, it's like the influence of the patriarchy, like pitting women against each other almost.
yeah, and there's so many men now that they don't care about that stuff, but women, it's so ingrained in our system. I mean, when you look at statistics, so here's one that, and I always love my 4% statistics from Dove, which I'll say it again, that Dove they do this whole self-esteem research, and they found that globally, only 4% of women consider themselves beautiful. 4% of women globally consider themselves beautiful. And I always joke after that over 60% of people in the United States believe in aliens, but only 4% of women globally believe that they are beautiful. Something's got to change about that. Like, we got to
Yeah.
stop being so hard on ourselves. But here's another one that I just read, that approximately 91% of women are unhappy with their bodies and resort to dieting to achieve their ideal body shape. Unfortunately, only 5% of women naturally possess the body type often portrayed by Americans in the media. That's so it's so true, right? When you watch TV, when you watch a movie, what do you see? You see, and it's, to me, it's getting
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. But like, I don't know, it kind of goes past that. And I think I have a pretty unique experience in this because like I've both been really heavy and really skinny. Like at my heaviest, what am I, 5'10"? So I was 190, which for me was heavy. And then at my skinniest, I was like pretty anorexic. I was 135, which is my body couldn't sustain that. I looked
No.
deathly ill.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you that people are a lot nicer to you when you're skinnier. People talk to you more. They want to hold conversation. They open the door for you. And I've gained weight and I'm not necessarily happy. I'm healthy, but I want to be more, I don't want to really want to lose weight right now. I need to just go back to the gym because I like being strong. Um, but it's kind of a rough transition to go from everybody kind of just like, even if they didn't think you're beautiful, they thought you were skinny and they were nicer.
Yeah, it is a crazy thing, and it's really a shame that that's how we treat people.
Yeah.
Like, we think about that, oh, let me open the door for you because you're beautiful, or
Yeah.
because I think you're beautiful, or because, you're wearing really nice clothes, or instead of just being kind to everyone that you walk by. Like, you don't know what
People
anybody
really,
else is going
yeah.
through.
People really, I don't know, people, obviously the people that I was friends with during this period, I'm no longer friends with, not because of one way or the other, but just because it was more about looks than it was any actual deep connection. And those friends that like calls me out for being unhealthy and kind of feeding into the attention you get are the people I still am friends with.
Right.
But it's just like a really hard thing as a woman to reflect back on because it's always going to make me want to be that skinny again, to be treated as I was. Because like you hear this thing of pretty privilege, and like obviously there is a thing as pretty privilege. Like there's no denying that. And I don't necessarily even think it comes down to your natural looks. I think you could like wear a full face of makeup and have beautiful hair one day and be treated completely different if you showed up not brushed hair and no makeup on. But it definitely would be hard for me to forget like the way I was treated while I was super skinny.
Well, you see that with celebrities, right? You see, obviously, when they get all made up for a movie or to go out or whatever, they look different than their normal way
Yeah,
of
I mean,
looking.
that's literally the whole point of makeup.
And then you see them get criticized when they're not all made up by,
Yeah.
whoever, paparazzi, the media, they criticize them. Oh my gosh, look at her stretch marks, or, oh, you can see all her wrinkles, and it's like, why are we doing this? Right? I mean,
I don't
and it
know.
really is affecting kids younger and younger. I read another
Yeah,
statistic
it's
that,
horrible.
and the reality show TV thing. So studies show that the more reality TV a young girl watches, the more likely she is to find appearance important. So obviously on reality TV, most of it's, unless you're watching like the Staying Alive things,
Or like the TLC, My 500 Pound Life, or like that
right.
stuff where it's just, but yeah, if we're talking like KKW and the shows that go along with that.
Love Island, all those things. I mean,
Yeah. I
you're
mean,
walking around in a bathing suit all
it's
day
kind
long,
of
and
scary to think about how much like it is affecting youths, regardless of like the terrible beauty standards. We're kind of forcing kids to grow up sooner. And I mean, I say this as if like I'm sure if a millennial saw like what my childhood was, they'd be like, what the heck? Why are you speaking? You were allowed to grow up so much sooner. Like and be so much of an adult. I don't, but like what I have to say to that is like I think I was at an era where it was still like, okay, they're kids trying out adult things. And now I think it's like, oh my God, we are like sexualizing children.
yeah, I mean, at a young age, I mean, that would be an interesting thing to look up. But I mean, years ago, the average age of losing your virginity was like 13. And I was like, how is that possible? I don't know if that was the average, but I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
it
that's
was,
insane.
yeah, I mean,
I
so there's,
just, I don't know. Maybe it's just like we're more in the internet phase, but I feel like in the last, like, I don't know, 3 years, I've seen more and more people being accused of like pedophilia. And I think obviously, like, don't blame the children, but part of it is due to like TV. Like these kids are acting older, and unfortunately people are stupid and not realizing that they're still children.
well, that's a thing too, is that you look at kids now, and what used to look like a 13-year-old when I
Yeah.
was 13 now looks like a 20-year-old, I
Yeah.
mean, so, and I don't want to go into the pedophilia part because that's a whole different conversation,
Yeah.
but just so when you now are looking like you're 20, you're acting differently. You don't have that same childhood, right? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I'll say that I probably bought more makeup when I was in middle school than I have probably in the last 5 or 6 years. Like, I don't, and I think part of it like was I was in middle school during like the 2015 beauty YouTube phase where like the full face was heavy and like Kylie Jenner lip kits were out. But I do think that like it is kind of a weird thing. And I think with the younger generation, it's like the middle schoolers and elementary schoolers and high schoolers, I don't know, you're just so obsessed with appearance and you think that these tons and tons of products are just gonna make you grow up faster. When in actuality, like the only thing that makes you grow up is age, and the only thing that really like changes the way you look is aging.
Yeah. I mean, and I have no problem that if you choose to do something, I mean, Botox, whatever you do, plastic
Yeah.
surgery, cosmetic surgery, whatever you do, if you're doing it for yourself, okay,
Yeah.
fine. If you're doing it because you want the other women to notice, or you're doing it because you think your husband's going to love you more,
Yeah.
or anything like that, like that's ridiculous. Now, I'm not talking about the women who have like 50 procedures and they look fake. That I can never understand. I mean, those are not
Yeah. I
beauty
mean,
standards.
good
That is
on
like
you, I guess.
completely unrealistic. But
But like if they think they look nice, they think they look nice. But I'm just gonna tell you, I don't think you look nice. But
yeah, again, you have to be happy with yourself,
yeah.
and you got to stop putting the pressures on you that society is saying that you have to look a certain way or dress a certain
Yeah.
way. Like, why does
And
that matter?
like you can change your appearance all you want from personal experience. You can lose all the weight. You can dye your hair different colors. The only thing that's gonna change is your outside appearance. You're still gonna hate yourself.
Yeah. You have
Like,
to work on yourself from the inside out.
yeah.
And that's why when I talk about building confidence, it's from the inside out. And that all ties into this, because the more confident we are in who we are, then the less we're
Yeah.
going to fall for all of these ridiculous standards that
Yeah.
shouldn't even be standards. It's just
It's
dumb.
yeah, it's like if you're going to get a physical trainer because you want to lose weight, make sure you're getting a therapist that goes along with that. So you can work on both of those issues.
Yeah.
Like
Or
why do
coach,
you a
Yeah.
life coach.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and they're usually for women, it's multifaceted, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
just, it is the people that you surround yourself with. That's like number one on my list. So my latest thing is Control Alt Delete, right? And it's, did you guys ever use that?
No. I mean
Okay.
like I know what Control Alt Delete is,
Okay.
but
So
like
so back in my day, that was how you would restart your computer, right?
oh
And
really?
yeah, Control
That's
Alt
really
Delete,
funny.
restart,
I don't
restart.
even think I'm looking at my keyboard. I don't think I have an
Well, we don't
alt
really
on the
have it
keyboard.
on, yeah, we don't have it on an Apple. I don't know if it still works on on a
Windows,
regular,
yeah.
yeah, Windows computer. But anyways, so I use that for controlling negative thoughts, right? You control your thoughts, you alter your perspective, and you delete, which is you set boundaries, you delete the negative shit in your life. You honestly get rid of the people that make you feel like you have to be someone different than who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been the biggest learning for me, is that not everyone is meant to be in your life. And you have to surround yourself with people that bring you up and that support you. And when you look in the mirror in the day, you want to treat yourself like you would your best friend, right? You wouldn't,
Yeah.
you would be honest with your best friend, but you would never say, "Oh my gosh, your hair color is awful," or "you're balding," or you would never say anything like that. You would see how you could help instead of just saying horrible things.
Yeah. Um I don't know. I think insecurities are, I mean, they're not controllable, but I hate to say this, they're not attractive either. Um, and I don't like that statement at all. But I think that dad was telling me, oh, maybe I shouldn't bring up dad. You know, he doesn't like hearing
Definitely.
his name in the
No, he
podcast.
doesn't like hearing his name
Okay, I'll
anymore.
do a different story. When
Okay.
I complain about the way I look to Jack, I think he takes it very personally. And Jack is my boyfriend. He says, I like one of the things he's like, I just don't understand why you think that.
Yeah.
And he honestly, if I keep going, he gets really upset by it because he's just like, you're bashing the person that I love.
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
yeah,
I like it. I like it said like that, because I see that with your dad too, where I'm gonna be like, oh my God, I am getting so bald. He's like, you're beautiful. Who cares?
Yeah.
Not to say that I won't eventually get a wig. I probably will because you know
Who
what? It's
cares?
like, yeah, who cares? But it's
And
for me. It's not
it'll
for
make
anybody
getting ready in
else.
the morning easier.
Yeah, but
Like
it's
you
not
just
for
throw a
anyone
wig
else.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like me, I don't really, honestly, like, I don't want to lose weight. I just like, I was really strong like 3 months ago, and then I am not right now. And so I want to get really strong again. But like, yeah, I think like it took, and obviously there's still like, I'm 21 years old. I fall into these insecurity traps all the time, especially like, I love to joke about the Sydney Sweeney thing, but yeah, of course I wish I looked like Sydney Sweeney. Like
Of course, you
she,
wish she looked like her.
yeah. Oh my,
Why?
because she right now is like the perfect standard of what beauty in Hollywood
But
should look
why do
like.
you? Oh my gosh, this is the whole point of this episode. Why do you
Yeah,
want to change who you are to look like someone else? She already exists. You are
that's
who you
true.
are.
But I think my point there is like, you can't change who you are. And so they like, the easier thing to do rather than go through all these changes and like essentially change who you are, except your DNA, is really just to change the way you see yourself, as you say all the time. And just, it's not an easy process to learn to love yourself, but it makes loving the world a lot easier. It makes finding love a lot easier. It makes finding friends easier. Um, because also I remember you said this to me. Obviously, like we all go through these periods of insecurities, but you were like, you really can't complain about this stuff because like your friends might hear it and they might think like that's how you see them too.
It's
Which
very
obviously, like, I
true.
would never even think that about my friends, but like, yeah, of course.
Yeah. I think that again, there we put way too much pressure on ourselves. And this is I mean, obviously the age of social media and TikTok and everything that's out there is showing us something that's unrealistic. And what I can say is even whoever the woman you said was that has the perfect, what's her name?
Sydney Sweeney.
Sydney Sweeney. Okay. So I guarantee she looks in the mirror and still has things that she doesn't like, right? We
Probably.
all struggle. And there are things she definitely likes about herself. And so my suggestion is focus on the things that you really like and then build yourself up for the rest of it. Like don't try to be someone else. That's just ridiculous. I mean, you see that with people getting plastic surgery to look like someone else. Like literally,
Yeah.
they're like, I want to look like this person. I mean, that to me is batshit crazy. Like, no offense to the people out there that have done that, but still, like, gosh, the whole point of this is to embrace who you are, be authentically you, love the woman in the mirror. And,
Yeah.
it takes work. Everything takes work. I mean, you're going to law school. You're going to learn it in one day?
No, I
No.
wish.
Yeah,
Oh,
no. So same thing. I wish that all the women in the world would look in the mirror and say, oh, I love myself exactly as I am. But that doesn't work that way. You have to work at it. And we have to stop looking at these beauty standards and say, oh, wait, I'm too bald. I'm not pretty enough. My eyebrows are too thin. My eyes are too big. My eyes are too small. All these different things. Like we are who we are. And
yeah.
when we change too many things, we're no longer that person. Right. So, I mean, I think that embracing who you are, if you want to do something for yourself, do it for yourself, but don't do it because the beauty standards say you need to look this certain way.
I agree. I don't know. It's just a struggle. Like it just is consistently a struggle. I think another struggle, I had big beef with Vogue because not only is Vogue like very culture appropriate, like a whole ton, they have a pretty bad like history of racism and sexism. But one of the things that they consistently do, and like literally like they've been called out, they will not stop. They do body standards as trends. So even as recently as I think, I mean, I'm sure they've done one more recently, but the one that comes to my mind most recently is they did an article probably, I don't know, a couple of years back that was like, big boobs are out, small boobs are in. You can't declare a statement like that. That is not how that works. You
Yeah.
can't just declare a body part that people have out.
Yeah. Go get them cut off because we tell
Yeah.
you that they're out.
But essentially, I mean, a lot of fashion companies, but like, oh, a lot of how the fashion industry works is like very much devil wears Prada. Like it comes from the source and then trickles down. Like Anna Wintour is the source of fashion. And like, yeah, their articles set these like kind of very dangerous standards of what body standards are like. And not to call out the Kardashians, but we have this Ozempic body on the mind right now. And if you, I did an article on this, or did a presentation on this for my fashion and digital media class. And maybe I've talked about it on here already, but if you look specifically at how the Kardashians looked 5 years ago, because they're always the center of what beauty looks like.
Right.
Maybe not necessarily in Hollywood, but just of the United States. So like 5 years ago, it was tiny waist, big butt, big boobs. But now if you look at them, they've all significantly shrunk down, both in the boobs and the butt. They're all, I mean, I don't know if they're all definitely on Ozempic, but like you kind of see this effect from them trickling all throughout Hollywood where that standard body is out because it's out with them.
Right.
Like, and like some ways I think like the Ozempic body, which it's become quite a thing. Like I forget, but it's like certain parts of it, like you can identify just based off of like muscle tonnage. I don't know. Some girl was talking about this in my class too. But like, I don't know, for them, some reason that bothers me the most right now. And not like it affects like the way I see myself, but affects it because it's like a lot of these people are going on there and being like, I lost weight in the most natural way and healthy way, and you should try it too. But in actuality, like, good on you. You were on an injection that helps you lose weight. Be like Oprah. Oprah's open about it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I think that it goes back to across the board that we are relying on media to tell us what we need to be in this moment.
Absolutely.
Right.
And we've always done that. We've always looked like throughout human history, we've looked to the elites to be how we are. Like you go back to ancient Rome, the body standard there that everyone wanted to be was thicker because so that you had money to afford food. And then like, it's very weird to me that body trends are even a thing because like you look decade through decade. And even like the late 1990s is different than the early 2000s. But how is that even possible? How can someone change their body in 2 years?
So, I mean, it wasn't okay for women to be fit, right? Like if you had too many muscles, then that was unattractive. If you were, so basically when I was younger, it was just be thin, but not too thin, right? And now it's like, be really thin, be really fit. And yeah, I mean, it does change. And people do focus on kind of following those things. I was reading something where it talks about that, Greece and Rome, that's where Western beauty standards were born. That's how when we think about things that we think back to that, and that was kind of like the beginning of those cycles. And it's interesting, certain areas. So I remember when we were in Ghana, and you mentioned this before, that in certain places being heavier is more desirable because that means that you have money to buy food, right?
Yeah.
So we look at it so differently here, that if being thin means that, well, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have money, but it does
in
mean
some
that
ways, if you look at the majority of the US, it kind of shows that you have access to healthier food and you're not in like a food desert.
For sure.
And as I just drove through all of America, I can tell you the things that I saw in every town were not a grocery store. It was a Mexican restaurant, a Dollar General, and a smoke shop. And if your Dollar General and your Mexican restaurant are your only sources of food, what really is there to do?
Yeah, you look at a lot of the different neighborhoods that don't have access to a grocery store.
Even in New York City, it's insane. Like I have friends that lived out in deep Brooklyn, and they had to go to a different subway stop to find food, find groceries.
Well,
that is ridiculous.
They work and they have money to be able to do that. Imagine it for the people that don't have enough money to pay for that extra subway stop to go get food. So they're eating food from the corner store or whatever they find. And again, I know we're getting a little bit off track here, but
what's another whole episode?
Yeah, that is a whole nother
episode. A sad thing. But it's kind of weird that like we have these standards of beauty that really come back to like health standards and not really, but like in this current age, we like to tie them back to health standards when most of America can't even access a gym.
Yeah. You can go outside. You can do things on your own. I mean, but you need the motivation to do it. And, again, you have to choose your life. That's really
Yeah.
what it's about. So I was reading this article, and I want to end with this before we go on to your quote. But women are not supposed to be put in boxes. We are not Barbie dolls and never will be. So defying society's standards is how we learn to love our true, authentic selves. If you want to put on a full face of makeup, do it. If you're hungry, eat a meal. If you don't want to shave, then don't. So that's the whole point, right? Be you. Do the things that are important to you, right? Again, if you want to put on a full face of makeup every day because it makes you feel good, do that. If you want to wear a wig because it makes you feel good, do that. If you want to get bigger boobs, do that. Whatever you want to do, but do it for you. And, embrace who you are. I mean, start loving the woman in the mirror as she is, and then keep working, right? I mean, positive affirmations every day. I guarantee they're life-changing. And actually, I just saw something from Mel Robbins. She did something like the 3 ways to brainwash yourself. And it's all about the way you talk to yourself, right? If we talk shit to ourselves in the mirror, what are we going to believe, right? We're going to really think about that. So talk to yourself like you would your best friend, right? You would not say mean things to your best. And maybe you have fights sometimes, but that's okay. But talk to yourself like you would your best friend. Tell me your quote of the day.
It's actually really good, and everyone's gonna be like, you planned this. But actually, when I tore it off this morning, I was like, I don't know how this is gonna relate to today's podcast. Because I didn't know what we were talking about.
I hadn't informed her yet. I woke up this morning, I was like, I want to talk about beauty standards.
Okay. So the secret to love is to love who they are.
Yeah. And it starts with loving yourself, right?
Amen.
Love yourself as you are. And goes back to respecting yourself, loving yourself, embracing your failures, all the things that I talk about with my real method. We have to love the woman in the mirror, because you said something before, and I just want to close on this. You said that when people are totally insecure about everything, it doesn't make them as attractive. I think you said it kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, when someone is constantly saying horrible things about themselves, it makes you feel bad, right? So like when they're like, oh my gosh, I look too fat in this dress, or, I don't think I should be here. I'm not pretty enough to be in with this crowd. Like that starts affecting the person that they're talking to. And for me, all I want to do is help that person. But it is something to remember, is that we have to build ourselves up. So it starts with loving the woman in the mirror.
Yeah.
I think that's it for today.
Yeah. First podcast in my half set up studio.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the sound quality is great. So that's good. And it'll be even better when you get to use, she has these, actually, we were going to try to record a podcast there together when I was there last week, because there's 2 chairs and 2 microphones and a soundboard. We couldn't make it work. So, so next time I visit, we will do one in person, and it will look very official. So
yes.
Anyways, thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Daughter Dearest podcast. We will see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Daughter Dearest podcast with Simone and Olivia Knego. We hope this episode has made your day just a little bit brighter and given you the inspiration you need to confidently go about your week. Always remember to be authentically you. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And feel free to connect with them on Instagram at Daughter Dearest Podcast, at Simone Knego, and at Olivia Knego.